It is 6:03. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have an actual flag today we can point to? Great. Can we get the flag? The flag?
Yeah, it's coming. Should be here shortly.
Great. Join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wonderful. Thank you. And if the clerk could call roll, please.
Chair Irwin,
Here.
Vice Chair Mounts. Vice Chair Mounts. Oh, sorry, you're muted. Okay, I got it. Director Carhart is not here yet. Director O'Farrell.
Here.
Director Tamani.
Here.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. And then I believe we have Recreation Department presentation, please.
We do. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick here. It says it's disabled, so I'll just wait for a second for Matt.
Can I just interrupt for just 1 second? Hey, Matt, could you just
Yes.
watch that participant waiting room to see if Director Carhart shows up?
Absolutely.
All right. Can everybody see the slide one? I'm sure
Yes.
Chair Irwin really appreciates that photo.
Buttering me up. Okay.
There you go. Exactly. So my name is Katie Koss. I'm the Recreation Superintendent for the Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District. And historically speaking, we typically do a recap of the previous year at our January meeting. So I'm going to walk you through a very brief presentation on the Recreation Department in 2021. All right, so as you can see, we did just a very quick revenue versus expenses snapshot for the board and community to see. Now, I'll note, and everybody's well aware of, when 2020 hit, you'll see a major dip because of COVID. I'll show you a graph after this, and you'll see it peak a little bit and then dip again because of the closures that we've had throughout this process. So I will state that the expenses does not include full-time and part-time staff, although it does include any expense related to independent contractors. So it's really much easier. This is per guide period, just so we can see how successful what we have in each guide is. So I'm going to move on to the actual graphs that will explain so this is the revenue. And as you'll see, the blue is a normal year. So that's 2019, and that would be a normal year. Our summer is always our peak year. That's where we make the most money because of summer camps and all of the programs that we have running, special events as well. The pink is 2020. And as you'll see, right mid-January through April, that's when COVID hit. And then we take a really quite a large fall to 39,000 in the May to August time period. We did peak back up a little bit because we had some opening capabilities. We started to have access to renting outdoor facilities. So that's why you see that peak back up in September, December to 58,000, almost 59. And then we really jumped as we got into 2021, jumped, I say, but 89,000, almost 90,000, 117,000 May through August, which again is our summer period. And then back down, which is actually pretty typical. Our fall winter guide is not as popular because obviously we've got some weather restrictions. So that's just a brief snapshot. I will thank Mario Corona, our accountant, for pulling all the numbers for me so that we can have an accurate view of the recreation revenue. Any questions on that slide from any of the board members? All right. Moving on to expense stats. Now, again, reminding you, it doesn't include staff time, but we really took direction from our district administrator. When COVID did hit, you'll see we dropped our expenses exponentially. That's the red column is this last 2021 period, but you can see we really dropped. In a normal year in the summer, we would have spent about $75,000 to $80,000 on just direct expenses. When we were in the midst of COVID, we didn't even spend $5,000. So we really cut a lot of expenses, pinch pennies where we had to, and we were still running virtual rec and doing a few things that required some supplies, but for the most part, we cut big time. And then you'll see in the red columns as they start to grow back up as we travel through 2021. So the expenses are pretty straightforward. They follow along with the revenues. I know, again, it's a very brief shot. I will state if any of the board members would like to see per program area where we're at with revenues and expenses, we also have that. So it's just a very detailed deep dive. So I would love to go over that with our budget committee when we go to budget. All right. I also can't see any comments myself while I'm in presenter view. Yeah.
We haven't had any, but Katie, really great job. It's great to see just again our district being so fiscally responsible in the height of COVID, and it just makes me very happy that's been our approach for the past couple of years. So thank you so much for making sure that's what we're doing.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. All right, and so moving out of the money part of things and getting into really the fun reason why we do these programs and events is our classes and programs. We really took the challenge of COVID, and we had great direction from our district administrator. Let's change things up. Let's advance what we have to offer. So we created immediately a virtual rec center when COVID hit. We continued that virtual rec center. We brought back in-person programs as soon as we were allowed to do so safely. The numbers, of course, were much smaller because we needed spacing with what facilities we had available. We did numerous outdoor offerings. If we could offer it outdoors, we were trying to offer it outside, no matter where we could put it. And I'll show you that in some of our advertisements in the following slide. Camp Fair Oaks, as we finished out the COVID year of 2020, when we were in 2020, we did offer some childcare just because that was the big push at that time due to the kids being displaced from not being in class. We transitioned right back into camp as soon as we got the go-ahead. It was still at about half of what we would normally be able to have, but we still ran that camp, and it was a wonderful, wonderful program. The Fair Oaks Youth Advisory Board, they moved to Zoom and then transitioned in 2021 back to in-person meetings. They are also doing their service groups again at multiple locations. And you'll see in 2022 coming soon, they're going to be discussing an Adopt a Park program, which is we've got new parks that have opened, and we'd love our Youth Advisory Board to actually adopt a park that has opened to keep it clean and be out there with the community to enjoy the park. So you'll see that coming in 2022. These slides are just pretty direct. This is just some of the really popular classes and programs we offered. All outside except for the preschool, of course, although preschool is definitely outside. Zumbini, Hits Tennis sells out every time. We jumped on for kids and for adults and for active aging adults, kayaking programming out at Folsom Lake, and that was really popular. Kids Love Soccer is always a huge hit. Our preschool has stayed strong throughout this whole process. Thank you to our preschool teacher, Alicia, and our TA, Shama. Did someone have a question? I heard something. No? Okay, just checking. Just a few more. Line dancing took a break during the peak of COVID, but then slowly transitioned back. Again, we've got our Youth Advisory Board coming in the fall. Camp Fair Oaks was a huge hit, and we did some STEM classes. And again, that's the adult learning to kayak. So just highlighting a couple of the great things we did outside. All right, moving on to special events. And again, this is highlighting 2021 for the most part. We reimagined events. We purchased software such as Eventany, which is always a tricky one to say, that really allowed us to advance how we work with vendors, how we stream, live stream for events and make that available, how we do online marketplaces so you could shop from a vendor from the comfort of your own home. So that was really great. Live streaming was all Ian Roberts. And we bought supplies for that so that cameras moved with people and it had all the right speakers. So we live streamed almost everything that we could, which was really a great offering for the community that still didn't feel comfortable enough coming out. We did a ton of partner events, which I'll discuss a little bit further in when we talk about Christmas in Fair Oaks, but I will highlight on the next slide that we had Progressive Dinner, which I believe all the board members either attended or are very well aware of. Those sold out almost instantaneously. They were a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. and the restaurants in the village. It was a huge hit. People just loved. So we will be bringing progressive dinners back for 2022. We had the Fair Oaks Chicken Festival for the very first time at Fair Oaks Park, learned a ton of lessons. It was a great day, really well attended. Our vendors had just amazing things to say about vendor sales and interactions with shoppers. And then I'll give kudos to Vice Chair Mounts and Recreation Supervisor Nick Davison for all their hard work on our very first ever disc golf tournament out at Miller Park. We had Burke and Karen as well, who are members of the Parkway Foundation that committed a lot of time and effort to help put that on. It was a huge success, a great day. And then of course, Sean Ventura was on the committee and led that effort with Nick and Darren. So it was just a really great tournament and really well done. And I'm sure they learned their lessons on that one too. So it'll just keep getting better.
What was, I don't recall saying that. I'm sorry to say, what was the attendance on that?
Oh, Vice Chair Mounts could probably answer that the best on exact numbers of how many people actually registered and participated.
Yeah, so this year, was our inaugural year. So we limited, and it's a 9-hole course, so we had to limit it to 90 players, and we sold out and had a wait list. So yeah, it was great, and nothing but extremely positive feedback from everybody that played in the tournament. Everybody did a great job. I mean, it was very professionally ran. So I think people are already, I think it's going to sell out immediately when we come up with something this year. We were talking about maybe adding a separate park and putting some temporary baskets so we can get more players involved. But those are discussions that we'll have in the future.
Did you say 9-0 or 1-9?
9-0.
That's awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great job on that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Mounts, for
That's great.
jumping
Everybody
in.
did a great job.
All right, and Christmas in Fair Oaks was a random idea that we had just to, with coming out of COVID, getting people back out in the community, we thought, let's activate all 31 days in December, and we certainly did that. I will give a huge shout out to the Fair Oaks Chamber of Commerce. They were instrumental as our partner in setting up those 31 days and activating those 31 days. We had a lot of community partner groups participate in putting that on, from our horticulture center group and master gardeners to our 4-dog group, trying to promote pet photos with Santa, which you can see in that photo that we had out at Phoenix Park. We added Meristem's Winter Fair to the calendar. So it wasn't only things that it took staff time necessarily to advertise. We reached out and had our partners let us know what they were doing in December. We added it to our calendar, and it was just great to fill it up. We did our first ever Light Up Fair Oaks house decorating contest, and that sold out and was a huge hit. We had a winner who got a gift card. I believe, thank you to Katie Yaunt, who is our local insurance agent and involved in almost everything. So Christmas in Fair Oaks was a huge success. The tree lighting, thank you to Director O'Farrell for being our board representative that day. It was wonderful. We had Penny Howard, who is our honorary mayor and turning 100 in May, up on stage. So it was great. Director O'Farrell, I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
I mean, only what I've said before. I was absolutely shocked and amazed at how many people were there and how well it was received by the community. It was a great night. It was a lot of fun, and our mayor, she is a hoot, and I hope that when I am that young, I can function just like she does.
And I will say, you're missing out if any board member is ever interested in riding along for Santa Stops. You are going to be amazed at how awesome it is to pull up with Santa in a Park District vehicle lit up with lights and make a kid's day. So if you're ever interested, you let us know and we'll get you in that vehicle. It is so much fun. All right, and then marketing for 2021, kudos to both Mary and Sabrina, but we really utilize that as our platform, again, because of the COVID restraints that we had. So you'll see some of these numbers, 82,696 total website visits. We only had 52,000 in 2020, so a definite jump in traffic on our website. We gained likes and follows on our Facebook. We increased our Instagram reach. Actually, in the last 90 days alone, it's increased 67% for our Instagram reach. Monthly Measure J social media updates, along with hopping on the updates that FOVEC does with our district administrator, Mike Aho. And then just everything under the sun, from social media marketing of all of our park openings and board of director meetings. Activity guide enhancements and communications. One big change is that in 2021, we started designing the roost in-house. It looks wonderful. Sabrina designs that whole roost in Canva. And it just really looks amazing. We started categorizing things by program areas like outdoor adventure, which just really grabs people. It's all color coded. We have a great section that highlights our board of directors. And then additionally, we added the issue software, which is what allows you to flip through the Roost activity guide like a magazine, where all the classes and programs are hyperlinked and take you right to the registration page. Activity Messenger was another thing that we added, that through text and emails allows for an advanced, more interactive exchange with your customer that's on your subscription list, and not just the boring old email. So Activity Messenger is great. It's going to allow us to request opt-in and subscriptions in the future for other things like a printed guide. If you want to print it or you only want digital, we'll be able to identify the difference between that. So it's been a great addition. And then just wrapping up, coming in 2022, and I will just state, this is not all that's coming in 2022. This is frankly just all we can fit on the slide without making it too crazy and taking up too much of your time. We're bringing back the annual events that we've missed for a while: Easter egg extravaganza, Kids Art Festival, the garage sale, and family dance, which is formerly known as father-daughter dance. Something new we will be bringing in, we are in contract negotiations right now, but a farmer's market on Tuesday mornings from 8 to 1 at Fair Oaks Park in the front parking lot. It's a morning where really not much happens in that front parking lot at Fair Oaks Park, and the organization that runs the Carmichael and the Orangevale Thursday evenings farmers market approached us, and we are working on contract negotiations between the organization and our district administrator. So looking forward to trying that out. Summer fun, we are going to print the guide again and mail the homes. It will have more Measure J information, as we will, knock on wood, be in the midst of construction and have a lot to tell the community about Measure J. We will be expanding camps. We are looking to have a camp at a San Juan Unified School District site that offers more space. So we're hoping for La Vista, but we're also pushing for Northridge or Leggett. We have new classes and new partnerships already being planned. For the fall, I will say Chair Irwin may be tickled for this one. We are trying to plan a horticulture center dinner event with string lights. Think Tower Bridge, smaller, and in Fair Oaks, very classy, very limited ticket numbers, farm to fork concept in the Hort Center, in and around the outside of the Hort Center and the gardens.
Well, let me know if we need some beverage donations. You know.
Oh, you got it.
Sounds like a great event.
You got it. We will be activating a fall event at Gum Ranch, just to stay with the history of what Gum Ranch used to be, with pumpkins and different things like that. So we're in the midst of planning that right now. We are also trying to put together an art market, so similar to a farmer's market, but an art market that we can start to build now, that will transition to the village and be a part of our arts and entertainment programming. And then Christmas in Fair Oaks, we're going to continue to expand. We're going to continue to get community partners to be participating and joining in and having fun in December. And I just want to say, on behalf of the Recreation Department, thank you to the Board of Directors and our district administrator and the community of Fair Oaks for allowing us to do what we do and for supporting us. It's a great thing we get to do. This is my team and I. It's missing Mary, but hiking in Auburn for an after work team builder. And then there's Mary and Shama having fun at Chicken Festival. So we are just so fortunate and appreciative of all the support and direction that we get also from our administrator, Mike Aho.
Awesome. Katie, thank you so much for that presentation. It's great to see everything that's going on, and it's really helpful to have a visual from this past year. I'm just going to go down the row of my directors to see if they just have any questions or if they have any comments that they want to add. Just start as I'm seeing. Director Mounts, anything like to add or ask?
No, it was great job, Katie, and the entire staff. I'm really looking forward to 2022.
Awesome. Director O'Farrell?
Ibid, Darren's comments, great presentation. And I mean, kudos to Katie and her staff. You guys always just rock it. So appreciate all the work you do.
Director Carhart?
Yeah, I hope you can hear me. I had technical problems getting on. I had to come up with a password and stuff. Yeah, I really appreciate your presentation, Katie. I caught all of it. And it's, recreation is my weak area. So I really did appreciate getting the rundown. I'm thinking about Gum Ranch. Are we going to sell pumpkins there maybe?
Maybe.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
That's a great idea too, actually. Director Tamani?
I don't have any questions, but I have to say, I had no idea that the roost was being designed in-house by Sabrina. I think it looks fantastic. It's my go-to all the time. I love the virtual format. And so you guys you're really crushing it right now. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all the comments and the positive thoughts. We just enjoy everything we do here. So thank you on behalf of the rec team.
Thank you, Katie. Great job, everybody. Okay, very good. Then I believe now we have time for audience public comment. This is going to be on any non-agenda item. So if there's anybody here watching that would like to speak on something that is not on our agenda, please raise your hand, put in the chat box, and you have 3 minutes to address us on any non-agenda item. After that point, we will be moving on. Do we have anybody in the queue that would like to speak? Non-agenda item.
No, we don't.
Okay, does not look like it. So I'm going to close public comment. We're going to move right on in to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion
So
to
moved.
approve.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion approved. Agenda is approved. Moving on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any questions on the consent calendar? Okay, great. I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent calendar is approved. Now we'll go into our agenda items 8.1. We will hear a report on the from Youth Advisory Board. We here?
I'm going to be stepping in for Rachel today. Hello, Board of Directors. My name is Mary Catolica. I am a Recreation Coordinator for the Fair Oaks Youth Recreation and Park District. And I am also the advisor of the Fair Oaks Youth Advisory Board. So a couple of updates for us. We are continuing our service group projects with the Orangeville Grange and the Fair Oaks Orangeville Food Bank. I have gotten a lot of positive feedback from the supervisors and volunteer leads over at both of those organizations. The students have been doing an excellent job. And so we're very appreciative that we have organizations that we can support. And as well as we are beginning the process of receiving donations for the adult egg hunt for the Easter extravaganza event. That is a wonderful fundraiser that we collect gift cards for, so the adults get to have a little bit of fun and search for some Easter eggs that have money in them, which is wonderful. As well as Katie mentioned, we are going to be discussing ideas for an Adopt a Park project, potentially with one of our newer parks, so that we can have a vested interest in the community and be a part of it, and make our parks and keep them wonderful. And additionally, we just completed accepting applications for the Rachel Ann Gray Scholarship. So we are going to be reviewing those applications in the next week or so and doing interviews to see what students will be receiving them. So that is all that I have. Are there any questions?
Any Board of Directors have any questions? Nope. Very good. Awesome. Thank you for that, Mary.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Great. And then moving on to 8.2, discussion possible action regarding the potential sale of Miller Park cell tower leases. Mike, do you want to take this one?
Oh, thank you, Director or Chairman. what this is about is the cell tower leases that the district holds. We're seeking some kind of board direction so we can work on this a little bit more officially. The three actions that potentially could happen out is after your discussion here would be that you're not interested in pursuing the sale of the district cell towers. You are interested. The second action is that you are interested in pursuing the sale of the cell tower leases. And the third action is related to the second. If you do elect to pursue the sale of the cell tower leases, then I would ask for authorization to work with David Moore of NAI Global Wireless to begin the negotiating the sale of the cell tower leases. And you also have an other, maybe there's something else that comes up. At your last board meeting, we had proposed, or I had proposed, to use the cell tower sale of the leases to fund the purchase of an office building. You, as a board, did not like the idea of selling the office and buying an additional office. So, but you did ask me to come back to you with this for discussion purposes and direction purposes. Currently, we have 2 cell tower leases, and the proposal was to sell those leases to obtain funds. The cell tower industry is changing. It's constantly changing. I'm sure you're all aware of the 5G. There's a lot of debate. I spent a lot of time looking at both sides of this thing, and there was no consensus even by the industry experts of what we can expect to see out of the 5G. The one consensus that we did have, though, is that will change. The big thing about 5G, and everybody agrees with, is that they are small cell sites. That would be, for an example, on top of a light pole along the street corridor. And they'll still have to have some relay or larger facilities, and depending on those locations, where those would be. It's hard to say right now. The challenge for us is we don't have small cell sites like Sacramento County does. They've got a lot of them. And so they're doing that now. They're dealing with the negotiations and the placement of those small cells on top of light poles, as an example. We also aren't able to go out and actively pursue additional cell towers or cell tower sites. It's not something that is done. You don't market yourself out to them. They pretty much come at you because they've already identified those sites. So as I mentioned, if you do decide to sell the cell tower leases, I would propose that we work with NAI Capital Wireless to negotiate the sale. We've used them for 2 other negotiations and been very happy with them. Their service has been outstanding. Their product, their follow through, everything has just been top end. I can't recommend them higher, but that it would be one of the recommendations that we have. If you do sell the leases, it can take 60 to 180 days, depending on who purchases those cell tower leases. There's different purchasers potentially out there, and it all depends on who buys them, on how quick this turns around. And if NAI does negotiate the sales for us, they will take a 5% commission. That's pretty much an industry standard. That's actually 6% is the industry standards, but since we've been a repeat customer, they're going to give us a 5%. Financial analysis on this, it's estimated right now that these leases are worth between 1.3 and 1.9 million, depending again on who purchases them. NAI's fees would be 5% of the sale, as I mentioned. That would be between $65,000 and $95,000. And then we also have some transaction transfer fees, recording fees that we have to pay approximately $1,000. If we do sell these leases, we will give up approximately $90,000 in revenue that we receive from the leases currently. So that's what I have. Off of the report, not on the report, is just the thought process from an operational side here, is that $90,000 in annual loss would be something that we'd want to try and replace that revenue somehow or another. And maybe that 1.6 million or 3 million or whatever we get from the sale of the towers could be used to facilitate the process for creating that revenue operation, whatever that might be.
Great. Thank you, Mike, for that. Going to open it up to any board member questions for Mike or for staff. Starting with Director Mounts, do you have any questions for staff?
Yeah, so what is the current term of the lease that we're in right now, Mike?
Good question. Yeah. Both leases right now are kind of pacing, they're about a month apart. The first renewals are coming up in 2023, June and July of 2023. Each one of those leases have 4 5-year options that are available to them. So you would say that that would be 20 years. So 2043 would be your end. But these can be canceled anytime. Any of these leases can be. They can be canceled by us or by the cell tower companies.
Okay.
Any other questions, Director?
Yeah, I do. So I don't understand, I guess. With 5G coming online and those you know, the small cell, they can be placed on top of light poles, whatever, you know, in a tree. So does that mean that our cell towers are obsolete? Is there still going to be 4G or 3G or 2.5G or 1G?
Yeah, I believe, and I don't have the right number, what iteration or version we're at yet. If the 2G has just has recently been not supported by some of the cell phones out there. So there'll be no more 2G, I believe it is. 3G and 4G are still in operation, will continue in operation for a while, foreseeable future. So it's hard to say. Like I said, it's a debatable thing, but what's going to happen? You know, are satellites going to play into it? You know, I don't know. Where's cloud cover come in if satellites play into it? You know, there's all kinds of different things.
With the 5G and the controversy around 5G and airports and, you know, what all that stuff that's going on. You know, when we were talking about selling them before and, you know, we had a plan for the revenue, then, you know, I was all over it. But right now, unless we have a plan, unless you want to just take the money and run and put it in the bank, then I don't know why we'd want to do this, especially if they're not going to be obsolete in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. You know, we can hold the money and make a determination on what we will be doing with it. There's nothing preventing us from doing that. We would have to pool it with the county's investment pool. So it would go under that format, like our bond. It is currently under that investment pool.
At 90 grand a year, it's going to take us 12 years to acquire the same amount of revenue, correct?
Yeah, probably.
So, I mean, there's, you know, you look at it 2 different ways. Either take the money now, take the money and run, or let it run until it runs out.
Okay, Director O'Farrell, any other questions?
No.
Okay, great. Director Carhart?
Yeah, I had talked to Mike about this a little earlier. I think if we could get the right price for it, for example, $1.8 million, that's the equivalent of 20 years revenue, I believe, if I did my math right, at 90,000. The fact that they could cancel at any time on us and leave us stranded affects me a little bit. And the fact that we could always entertain another tower on our site without their approval if that became necessary for some reason. Mike explained to me that they have these smaller transmitters that transmit to central towers. This would be considered a central tower. So I don't really have any questions. I talked to Mike about these things, just wanted to make sure that they were out there. For me, it's just a matter, can we get enough from them? Because I think it's really questionable how long this technology will last, and we may be left with nothing. And if we can find a buyer now, my sense tells me we should sell it, bank the money, use it to do some more Measure J projects, do some capital projects, whatever. That's it for me. I'm inclined to sell.
Okay, well,
sorry.
Well, I was going to say before we discuss, though, I wanted to give everybody a chance to ask any further questions, clarifying with staff, and then I wanted us to open up to public comments, and then we can come back for discuss. Oh, sorry, Director Tamani, I didn't mean to cut you out there. Sorry, did you have any questions?
That's okay. I don't have any well, my question, Mike kind of answered it in that my concern is the revenue component. I think that if we take that revenue away, we either need to cut $90,000 from the budget, which I think would be a challenge to do, but it's something we would have to do. Or we're going to be in a situation where, kind of like as Ralph suggests, we're kind of piecemealing, like sticking in a bank and then pulling out $90,000 every year to cover that. And so to cover that exists, because that revenue is being used for services. So, so that's kind of either, I don't think we necessarily need to know exactly right now what we would use the money for, but I think the money would have to, at least part of it would have to be used in some way to create additional revenue, or at least part of it would have to be used to create additional revenue to cover that up, or not to cover that up, but you know what I mean, to fill that revenue gap, the operational gap we would have. So.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, well then I'm going to open it up to public comment on this matter. So I think we have at least one person who wishes to speak on this. If you wish to, please raise your little hand thing or put in a message and we'll make sure you can speak. And again, you have 3 minutes to address the board regarding this matter. It looks like Mr. McDermott, I think you wish to speak on this matter.
Yeah, thank you, Director.
So please.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to echo some of the sentiments of what are we going to do with the money if we get it, and why are we going to? I guess there's some concern that the technology might go away. I just would hope we could have a plan for what to do with the money before we make any decisions that can't be reversed by selling it. And of course, I have an idea of what we can do with the money. If you guys are looking for ideas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else who wishes to speak on this item? Matthew, Mike, anybody see anyone? Great. Okay, so then going to close public comment on this. So I'll bring it back to Board of Directors for just discussion. I'm going to sense where everybody is. So just going to kind of go back the same way I went. So Director Mounts.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is, it's not necessarily the way I understand it. The technology is, they put new technology on these towers all the time. So it's not like we're stuck with this fixed asset of technology that, oh my gosh, 3 years from now, it's no longer viable. They just put up a new little antenna receiver or whatever it may be. So I'm really leery to sell this asset, especially when it's bringing in good revenue. And you can say that we don't know what the future holds for just about anything. But right now it's a pretty stable way to bring in $90,000 a year. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Director O'Farrell.
I'm of the same opinion. I mean, if it's, and I hadn't really thought about what Delinda's point was, if we cut this out of our budget, we gotta figure out how to reduce the budget by a like amount. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to sell them and then draw the 90 grand a year every year to make up the difference.
Okay, great. Thank you. Director Carhart.
Well, as I say, a lot of it depends on how much money we get for this. Assuming that the cell tower remains necessary for the industry for the next 20 years, we would get, I believe, 1.8 million. If we could get 1.8 million up front, I think we would eliminate the risk that the tower may not be necessary in the future as towers consolidate, or as the technology to transfer to less main stations might change. We used to have, for many years, we had a capital budget, and we budgeted a certain amount of money for capital projects. This is before the bond money and before the recession where we had to cut our capital. I would propose that if we took the money, that be used to supplement the capital budget for however many years we want to replace some actually real assets, not just, squander the money. So remember, we'd be getting money in the bank. If we sold it for 1.8 million, we'd have that in the bank. We could use it. And we don't have to worry about the risk of the tower never, becoming unnecessary in the future.
Well, interestingly enough, if you take the 1.8 million at 5%, you get 90 grand a year.
You know, anytime you sell something, you want to buy something low and sell it high. We got the tower leases years ago for basically for nothing. They were something that we were able to allow to go into the park and generate revenue for us. But if they no longer, you know, at one time, nobody needed towers. Now we need towers. They may not be necessary in the future. It's going to take us 20 years to get that 1.8 million in annual revenue. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Great. Thank you. Director Tamani?
And I mean, that's true. It would get the 90,000, but that's only if we kept the 1.8 in the bank and we didn't spend it. And the thing is that we can't keep the money to generate the interest, but also spend the money on a project. So I just felt tied that we can't keep that revenue and also spend the money on something. And so I would like us to wait on doing the sale, but at the same time keeping a finger on the pulse of where the direction that this is going, because I do agree. I mean, I think, Ralph, you make a really good point. You do want to sell at the high end of the market. And I guess I feel I don't have enough information to know if that's kind of where we are right now.
Great.
That's all
Thank
I
you.
have.
Yeah, I share a lot of your sentiments. You know, I like the idea of having this large chunk of money, you know, especially as we're working on all of our Measure J funds, and we're seeing, especially Director Carhart and I, we're seeing how quickly our money goes, honestly, and how it just keeps costing something more and more. And I think about what we want to do in our town and what we could do, and you know, the idea of capital projects as well. I mean, there's so many great projects I know we all would love to fund. My big concern, and I'm leaning towards the direction that Director Tamani is that I would like to see, before we honestly voted on this, to see where could we at least cut that 90,000 at least in half, as far as where would that be coming from? How could we cut that in a way that still works for our programs, what we're doing, and then figuring out potentially how could that 1.9 or 1.8 million go to do some sort of a little bit of self-funding, because I like the idea of having a large chunk, but I don't think it makes sense to Director Mounts, Director O'Farrell's point of, you know, we're getting this money now, what are we going to do with it then? And how are we going to recoup this funds if we're now $90,000 less a month? And so my question, Mike, was just with the money specifically that comes from our cell towers, do we have that specifically going towards anything, or does that just go towards our general budget and then we distribute it out per our budget?
Yeah, it just goes to the general budget. It's just general revenue coming in.
Okay.
So Chairman Irwin, I have
Yes.
a suggestion. Because this is not urgent, doesn't have to be dealt with this month. Perhaps we should digest this, have Mike do a little more investigation so we can answer the questions of what would we do with the money, and you know, get a little better sense. Maybe we can get that from our consultants about what the likelihood of this thing being necessary for the next 20, 30 years versus may go away tomorrow, so that we have a little more information before we make a decision.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, with that, so Mike, you know, what I'd like to see is I would love to see if we cut our budget, I suppose, in half, what would we be cutting out? What would we be taking away? Would it be a big sacrifice or not? And then just for us to remember, kind of to what you said, Director Carhart, 1.8 million at one time is a lot. And when you're taking 10 to 20 years or whatnot to get it, it's less projects that we could potentially do. So I would be fine with that, unless anybody specifically wanted to make a motion on this. I would entertain a motion. Somebody specific.
I don't want to make a motion, but I would like for Mike to report back as part of this process what the treasury pool rate is. And if we got 1.8 million, the treasury pool rate,
Yeah.
and what is it? Is it 1%, 2%? Is it 3%?
Yep.
If it's 5%, you know, we're even.
No, I have one more question. This 90,000 a year, 20 years from now, is it still going to be 90,000 a year, or is there an inflation factor? Because 90,000 in 20 years will probably buy us a McDonald's burger. So do we have an inflation factor?
There are escalators. It's usually it's at 3%. I think both of these are 3%
I think it
escalators
was 3, yeah.
annually. Yeah.
So
So
that
very-
90,000 a year will go up over the next 20 years. That's another factor to consider. So could I make a motion to delay this or table this till next meeting for a further report?
I have a motion on the table. Is there a second for Director Carhart's motion?
I'll second.
There's a second. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of tabling this until moving this to our next board meeting where Mike will report back to us in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. So we will continue this to our next board meeting. And Mike, I think you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and just a couple of things, just so you all are aware of this, and I chiming in as I'll chime in on this next month as well. But one of our challenges coming up is we have a lot of unknowns coming up. I would hope that we don't try and make a decision too quickly on this either way, because all of the unknowns with the arts and entertainment, and you'll hear about that a little bit later today when they're in staff updates. But all those unknowns, we're not certain how that revenue is going to play out and how the expenditures associated with those revenues are going to play out as we go into the new arts and entertainment type of operations. So we have a huge unknown in front of us that kind of spooks me. And so I won't be able to say, as you had asked Chairman Irwin, to say, where can we cut 45,000? I'm afraid it's like I need to find 45 more thousand, not cut, because of what's about ready to come down in terms of the arts and entertainment process.
Understood.
So I guess one of the things I'd like to see, Mike, next time is how this affects our budget. Where does this 90,000 go? And also some ideas for what we would do with the $1.8 million or whatever that we would get. And perhaps if we can focus in on how much we realistically will get. Will we get the 1.3 or will we get the 1.8? Maybe you can, get a better sense of that. I don't know.
Yeah, they've been pretty straight shooters with us, but I can try and dial it down a little tighter with them. But I know they're not inflating it, and I know they're not giving us the worst case scenario neither. So
Great. Okay, thank you so much for that, Mike, and everybody. So then I think now we're going to move to items from the board, it seems. So start with Director Mounts. Any items?
Yep, I don't have anything this month.
Great. Director O'Farrell?
I do not either.
Wonderful. Director Carhart?
Just to call out the staff and Mike for a wonderful ribbon cutting grand opening of Gum Park. It was well attended. It was a lot of fun. I've been over there since then to see gangs of kids playing on the equipment, little kids and people walking their dogs through. And so it's already getting the use that we had hoped. And so it was a good event that the staff put on. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Tamani?
Just wanted to echo Ralph's comment. I thought the ribbon cutting was great. Chairman Irwin had some words that he shared with everyone and spoke on behalf of the board. I thought he did a great job. And I also appreciated, Ralph, you giving us the history of Gum Ranch. That was very fun too. And I know everyone really enjoyed hearing from you as well. So it was a great day.
It was wonderful to be there. Awesome job, everybody. It was great to get to climb on the jungle gym myself. So I had a lot of fun. Great job to staff for doing that, putting that on. So staff report, Mike, I'll let you kind of lead.
yeah, and I'll start off with Sean. I believe he has a couple of things.
Yes, good evening, Board of Directors. I'm gonna try and share my screen here real quick. Matt, if you could give me access to sharing the screen. I'm going to talk about three things real quick. And the screen is going to be this one. The first one is going to be an item referring to Lot B, which if you're not aware, this is an overview. If you can all see my screen here. of Phoenix Park. Specifically, Lot B is north of Phoenix Park between Runway and Dauntless. East of Dauntless, my apologies. This section right here, and I'll go to the assessor's parcel view. This section right here. In roughly 2005 or so, and I apologize because my computer, when I brought it home today, is unable to access the server, so I can't get you an exact date because all my pages that were loaded are not loading right now. So roughly 2005, we sold a small portion of this parcel to a neighbor of Lot B. It was about 10 foot by 88 feet to the south of some of these houses here. Unfortunately, as we're learning this year, that was recorded incorrectly. And currently the ownership of all of Lot B is no longer with our district. I'm going to be working with the county on this one to correct that mistake and make sure this is recorded correctly, as I'm sure the neighbor is not going to want to either pay the property tax on this entire space or maintain this entire space. And just for a little history on this, and I won't take too long, right now, as you can kind of see here around my mouse in the center, this is just a detention basin. Over on the right where you see this section of thin yellow, it's a drainage ditch next to some vernal pools and behind some houses. We don't currently have an active use for this area. It is just water detention. So I wanted to let you know that there is a bit of a snafu with county recording on this, and we are going to be working towards correcting that.
So Sean, exactly where is the problem? Is it, obviously I can't point, but.
Yeah, I believe if you see lot 4801 and 4800, I believe it is this section right along the south end of that, on the bottom of their houses. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not great at reading the legalese of assessors, county property lines and the like. I believe that's where it is. Any other questions on this item? No? Okay. So I'll move to the next one. This one is another snafu with the county. This is Gum Ranch Park here. Sorry for the non-satellite view, but I'll move over to the Sac County parcel viewer here in a second. The property, the new property is this section here. But previously we owned the Manana property, which it stretches off to the north of this map, and it connects to the Gum Ranch property here on this parcel. We gained these properties from Sunrise when district lines changed, and again, because my pages won't load, I can't give you the exact dates on those, so I apologize. When Sunrise gave us these properties, Manana and this one that I have highlighted, they should have given us this one as well. This tiny little one that I'll zoom in on, which is currently one of the only ways to get in and out of Gum Ranch, as the creek is let me close this here so it's not so in the way. The creek runs right here, and it really connects really close to our property line here. This property should be ours. It is still listed as part of the county database as Sunrise's property. So we're going to be working on getting a new survey of the area and changing this over to actually being owned by Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District. We feel that this is going to be necessary because currently the neighbor parks a car right here. It is a utility easement. There's a sewer access right here. So just to avoid any problems in the future, we're going to try and tighten this up and make sure that it is transferred to our ownership and get a clear delineation of where they cannot walk as far as travelers to and from our park are concerned.
Sean, just to point out to the rest of the board there, the blue strip that goes to Manana there to the right actually goes into the bridge abutment. So the path traverses the yellow outline there. That's why it's necessary. And I believe we took over this portion of the Sunrise Park and Rec District about 1999 or 2000, because I was the one that instigated it. So I remember those dates. So yeah, this was inadvertently not transferred to us.
But Mike, you and I talked about this in December, and isn't there a way that to expedite the process? There's the quit claim process, and couldn't Shanahan advise us on what the best way to do this is?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we will be able to get quick claim. We've already been in contact with Sunrise. They are willing to obviously do that. And we'll pay the recording fees and then the resurveying fees, of course. So
is there already a meets and bounds description for this particular piece?
I don't know that off the top of my head. There should be, but I don't know for sure.
If it's a separate parcel, it's got to have a description already, and it just needs to be deeded over to us, which means their board has to vote on that, and then it'll be done deal now.
Yeah, it should be, and we'd assume that, you know, whatever the recording fees are, which shouldn't be a whole lot, I wouldn't think.
They're pretty nominal.
Wonderful. Sean, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I have one other item, and I'll try and be quick because I know it's already stretching along here. So my next one is a section along Krutoff Way here, which, as you know, goes into Phoenix Park, this major area over here on the right. Going over to the assessor's parcel view. We've had recent troubles with sewer lines over here in this parcel, which is owned by the county. Our sewer line comes from restrooms and the VFW off of the far right side of the screen to the east, and it travels along this road out to, I believe, access on inside this neighborhood cul-de-sac here. We've been having trouble with some of the sewer accesses here in the center of the county property. Currently, the main lines here, the main sewer lines, are considered to be a private line by the county and the Department of Water Resources. Just wanted to let you know that we have incurred some costs trying to clear this line out because the county and the state don't want to touch it because it's private. Where we're going to be working on getting this recorded and getting this mapped and getting this under the control of the overall sewer district and the Department of Water Resources, as the case may be, to try and hopefully avoid any further costs and avoid contaminating any stormwater drainages in the future. I'll keep you updated on our progress on that. And that is it for me.
Great. Thanks, Sean.
I just want to kind of echo Sean's work here. He's done a good job on these projects. We've accidentally found out most of them. So we're hoping that we're not going to open up any more cans of worms as we continue to get through these next few years here. These are time consuming and also very, not overly expensive. It's more time consuming. So.
Great. Okay. Mike, anything else from staff?
I believe Katie has something.
I do. I have just two items very quickly. The board of directors, we just wanted to get your feedback on who might be interested in attending Best of Fair Oaks. It's on Thursday, February 3rd from 5:30 to 8:30 at Northridge Country Club. And we want to secure any seats that the board would like to have along with staff at that event. So I just wanted to put it out there. You certainly don't have to tell me right now. You can get back to me via email or text on your interest in attending, and we will make sure that you have a seat at that event. We're just deciding between purchasing tickets per person or purchasing a table, because there is a benefit to a table if we have enough people. So whenever you have an idea that you'd like to attend, we hope you can attend. We're nominated for at least 4 or 5 areas. I believe the Miller Park Disc Golf is also nominated. So lots of great things coming at that event. And then just finally, I just wanted to say that as of Monday morning, we will, thank God, have Chelsea Adams back. So I just wanted to throw that out there that you'll, I think she's listening to this board meeting, but we'll have her back in person, live in action, and the rec team and the staff can't be any more excited. So there she is. So with baby in tow. So we're very happy to have Chelsea back. That's it from me.
Thanks, Katie.
Do we get to see baby? Chelsea?
I think you'll see baby in the
Maybe.
office for sure.
Maybe. She's pretty easygoing. I've had it very lucky, and I tell everyone I have it so great. My work supports me, and I just cannot thank the district enough for giving me this time to be able to be home with my kids. So thank you so much.
That's a future director there.
Can't wait to be back.
Thank you.
And Jen, did you have anything, Jen? No, okay. I got a couple of little things here. I just want to, I know you've heard this, but we have received a check for $219,459 for the COVID relief fund for special districts that came down through the state, and that was initiated by CSDA on our behalf. A couple of things we will be bringing forward to the committee for those funds. One is that we will be asking for a CSDA membership, and we'll reserve 2 years of funds for that. I believe it's about $9,000 total, or is it higher than that, Jen? Oh, it's higher, about 20 grand.
15,000 for 2 years.
Oh, 15,000 for 2 years. So we'll.
Are there any strings attached to this?
No, there's not. It's we can do whatever you want.
It doesn't have to go to personnel. It can go to projects. It can whatever.
Correct. And then the other thing we're going to ask is that the funds then be put into a restricted account, the balance of those funds be put into a restricted account, which would allow us to hire our arts and entertainment manager before we open the door. That could be as early as this year or this fall that we hire that person, so we can get them started on creating revenues and revenue streams for that, the renovation of Village Plaza Park, the amphitheater, and the clubhouse. They can do some of those arts and entertainment programs around the entire area. They don't have to have the park. And then we can transition them to the park or keeping them outside the park and still have additional programming. So we'll be asking for that, just so you know that that's coming up. And if there's other things that come up, of course, throughout this time before we meet with the committee and the board, please get a hold of me, and we'll definitely be bringing those forward as well. But that will be our approach as we go forward.
Awesome.
And then Sean talked about Lot B a little bit. I am meeting with the Water District Friday morning to discuss the agreement for moving the water line and for the potential well site, which is what we'll be exchanging for the work to move the water line out of Village Plaza Park out to the road. The exchange is that we will provide a future well site somewhere in Phoenix Park. I am asking the Water District if Lot B is even possible for something like that. So I'm hoping that is our property, and we didn't give it to a neighbor prior to. I don't think we did, but anyway, just so you know, I'll be meeting with the Water District next Friday to hopefully get the agreement worked out and then to discuss the possibility of Lot B. And that's all I have.
So Mike, at the next board meeting, can you give us, I know that you work directly with the Measure J group, our committee, but can you give the whole board a rundown on where we are with respect to next steps? I know that probably a month ago, you said, we were going to go out to bid in late December. And so where are we? I get asked that all the time. Nothing's happening. And I'm sure you hear it too.
Yeah, and I know Director Carhart and Chairman Irwin are at the meeting this morning. We're getting tighter on our time frame, which is good. It looks like we'll be going out to bid the end of this month, and then we'll do a 30-day. If I was correct, we're not going to do a 45-day, but we're going to do a 30-day bid out, and then we'll be seeing the approval, hopefully, of those bids coming to you at the March meeting. And
that'd be great. I can make your job a lot easier if I know what's going on, and
Yeah.
I'm sure the other board members as well. So, I mean, it
And
just,
I
just
think,
just an update.
yeah, and maybe Director Farrell, honestly, it might even be easy if we just have like a one pager. Could even be like a, you
Well,
know,
oh, sure, absolutely.
right?
You know,
I
here's,
think-
here's what the party line is on this.
Yep.
Rather than try to make excuses.
Yeah, yeah. And I can tell you, you know, being in these meetings where we've been discussing, it's you know, there's been so much red tape and so many issues, and we're really excited. I mean, we're Director Carr and I were really hoping we can get 5 bids. That's our goal, and you know, tell everybody you know to come down.
Well, that's my
It's
point.
very complex.
I need to know what to tell
Yep.
people.
Yeah.
Well, right now we're in the process of pre-qualifying, and we learned today that there are only 3 contractors that have signed up for that process. We've had a hard time, or our consultants have had a hard time because a lot of contractors are busy. They're not ready to go through that process, and of course they need to go through pre-qualification in order to bid on this thing. I guess we also learned that there is a process for adding contractors later, but we've urged them to make a real strong effort to get as many contractors pre-qualified now as possible. As far as permits, you know, Rich Desmond has been pushing the county's staff. I think he mentioned to me that Mike Penrose is now over some of the planning staff or whatever. But we find that on the park, the sign-offs we need are from Sac Metro and from the school district on some of these park permits, which seems absurd, but you know, they haven't signed off on them. So our landscape architects have had a lot of problems getting through that process. Our architect is in much better shape, and I think, and Mike correct me, we can go to bid before we have the final approvals from the county on the designs. Is that
That's
what I heard
correct.
today? Yeah.
Where we're at right now, we're capable of going to bid. We've got a few loose ends to tie up, but they're not, basically we won't get the notice to proceed for that part of it unless we finish those pieces up. There's nothing major though.
So Penrose is an interim agency administrator. He holds.
I guess so. That's what I think I
I
heard
used to
Rich
hold,
say.
but they're also in the process of appointing a new community development director. And that might be, you know, the go-to person on this stuff once we know who he or she is.
Mhm. It might be too late for this project, but Rich is very aware of the fact that there probably needs to be a shepherd at the county to guide these things through when it's this big a project, instead of letting every little unit, you know, take their pound of flesh. I mean, right now, for example, on the park design, they're holding them up over the root barriers for trees in our park, and they're arguing over, or they're considering over whether these trees are county trees or our trees. And it looks like there are trees, but still, you know, staff reviewers can drag their feet sometimes, as I know, having done this before.
So,
you know, so
Well,
some of this is hard to manage.
I know, I mean, I understand the bureaucracy. I don't need to get into the weeds on this thing, but I just need to have some sense of how we're progressing forward, what the next major steps are. And so that if I'm asked or
accepting
any
pre-bid for construction, I think that's a big step. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're almost there, right?
Okay, cool.
Great. Okay, wonderful. Well, I think with that, is there a motion to adjourn to our next meeting, February 16th at 6
So
p.m.?
moved. So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. All those in favor?
Bye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Nice job, Chair.
Thank you, guys.
I thought I heard a chicken.
All
Very
those
nice.
legal chickens and give them to Sean. Okay.
Oh, that's a beautiful one right there. Pretty
All right.
bird.
See y'all. I'm going.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night.